Good evening, everyone. It is 5:30, so I will call this meeting to order. Members of the public have been invited to participate in this meeting of council by attending in person at the council chambers at the municipal office located at 10227 Ilderton Road in Coldstream, or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meetings electronically. Members of the public may also access the meeting by live stream on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. So just before we begin today's meeting, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge why it is that some of us are wearing pink. Today, we recognize Pink Shirt Day, a movement that began in Canada in 2007 when students wore pink in support of a classmate who had been bullied for wearing a pink shirt. What started as a simple act of solidarity has grown into a global symbol of standing up against bullying in all of its forms. By wearing pink, we show our commitment to fostering a respectful, inclusive, and supportive environment in our workplace and in our broader community. It's a reminder that each of us plays a role in creating a culture where everyone feels safe, valued, and heard. Thank you to all of those who are participating today, and thank you for helping uphold these principles in a way that helps us work together and serve our community every day. The next item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement. The municipality of Middlesex Centre recognizes that we are gathering on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people on this land and are committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect. Our neighboring First Nations communities, which continue to live as sovereign nations, include the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. We don't have any additions to the agenda this evening, so I'll look to council. Are there any individuals who need to declare a pecuniary interest? Seeing none, then I'll note that there are no delegations or presentations this evening. And we can move to the recommendation for the adoption of the minutes, and that is that the minutes of the February 11th, 2026 meeting of council be adopted as printed. A mover, please, Councillor Cates, and seconded by Councillor Coles. Thank you. All right. Oh, sorry. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. All righty. Now we can move to item 7, which is the public meetings, and we need a recommendation to move into that. So the motion before us is that council move into public meetings at 5:33 p.m. pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended to consider the applications listed on the February 25th, 2026 council agenda. And that is moved by Councillor Shipley. Thank you. Councillor Arts seconds. Call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. So just before we begin, I have a wee preamble so we know what the order of the activity will be. Members of the public that wish to receive further notification on any of the applications being considered today, I ask that you please send those in an email to planning@middlesexcentre.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented is a matter of public record. If you have any questions on any of the applications that are being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on the file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address council and provide comments on those applications. In keeping with procedural bylaw and our zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. There is an order to the proceedings, and it is as follows. First, the chair, that is myself, I will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and to present the staff report. Then the applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to their application. And then those who have registered in advance and are attending in person will be asked for their comments. Fourth, those who have registered in advance and are attending virtually will be asked for their comments. And then remaining members of the public who are present and who wish to delegate will be called on for additional comments. Council then will ask questions of the applicant, delegates, and/or staff. And then finally, the chair, that is myself, will consider motions regarding the applications that we've heard. So the first item up tonight is the application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA number 2, 2026 for 10651 Gold Creek Drive. And Marian Francis Ramos Cabral, the planner, is in attendance to provide an overview of the planning report. So we'll start there. The floor is yours when you're ready, Marian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to the rest of council. The purpose of the staff report is to provide a recommendation regarding the applications at BA 2 2026 for the land at 10651 Gold Creek Drive. This property is located southwest of the intersection of Egremont Drive and Gold Creek Drive and southwest of the community of Lobo. So the purpose of this application is to rezone approximately 7.9 hectares of land from cultural no residence or A3 zone to a new site-specific farm industrial exception zone. And this is specifically to permit dry industrial and general industrial uses related to agriculture and set a minimum parking requirement of 50 parking spaces. The effect of this application would facilitate a second location for dairy lane systems to manufacture and transport dairy equipment similar to their existing operations just east of this property in the community of Lobo. Specifically to this application, the applicant is proposing approximately 125,000 square feet of building for manufacturing and office space, and this would all be on private services. Additionally, open storage of materials and parking would be on the property surrounding the building. The site would also contain a stormwater management area just north of the building. And I will note that on the concept plan that was provided in the notice and as well attached to my staff report, there is an area that's identified as a power generation station. However, this is not part of this rezoning application, and if proposed by the applicant, they will need to apply for further approval from the municipality. So the 7.9 hectares of land is actually proposed on a farm that's 207 acres in area. It does contain a single detached dwelling further down the road on Gold Creek Drive, as well as outbuildings and some farm buildings, but they are completely separate from this proposed use. This property is actively farmed and is surrounded by agricultural uses as well as rural residences, and abuts commercial, light industrial, and residential uses that are located within the community of Lobo. So notice of this application was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff. At the time of writing my staff report, I did not receive any comments from members of the public. However, we have received many letters since then and leading up to this meeting. I believe that these all have been shared with members of council for your consideration. But just to summarize, some of the primary concerns relate to the outdoor storage and general operations of the proposed use. Neighbors have identified that the current operations on Egremont are visible, and there is no buffer between the use as well as surrounding land uses. Similarly, being in proximity to two operations would compound the noise and light issues that are already felt from that existing operation. There is concern about the drainage tiles in the area and the increased runoff from this new proposed facility that will compromise the old tiles on the land. As well as there is general flooding issues, especially in the area of Egremont Drive and Gold Creek Drive. Additionally, there's, of course, general concern about the loss of prime agricultural land and that the facility should be located within an industrial park. There's also concern with the scale of the facility and general incompatibility with the community of Lobo, its impact on traffic and infrastructure in the area, and impacts on groundwater. Additionally, Public Works and Engineering staff provided detailed comments and requirements related to servicing and drainage, and that these will need to be addressed through site plan control. St. Clair Region Conservation Authority also reviewed this application, and they acknowledged that the primary work and study that the applicant had provided does not propose any changes to an outlet that eventually flows into the McKellar drain. However, if there are any changes to that existing outlet, to any new stormwater management outlets, to a regulated water course, or for any development within the regulated area, the St. Clair Conservation Authority will be required to approve any new development as well. So with regard to applicable policy, when we consider in review of this application, the provincial policy statement as well as the county official plan permit or permit farm or agriculture-related commercial or industrial uses that are directly related to farm operations in the area that support agriculture and benefit from being in close proximity to farm operations and provide direct products or services to those farming operations. Additionally, these uses should not require substantial demand to services such as large volumes of water being created or being used or create significant waste or byproducts. So examples of these types of uses can include things like livestock, animal, hospital, farm equipment sales and repair, agricultural research or training facilities, grain drying, microbreweries, food processing, as well as agritourism. And generally, the PPS and provincial direction to support agricultural systems and the county official plan, as well as the Middlesex Center official plan update through OPA 59, generally support these types of farm-related industrial uses within prime agricultural areas, of course, where appropriate and subject to criteria. And in review of this proposal against the criteria, we do acknowledge that the facility would be considered an industrial use. It could be located within a serviced urban area. However, it's not necessary since it is a dry use. It benefits in proximity to being, from being in proximity to their existing operations and in proximity to a county road network and nearby to the farms in which they do serve. Municipal staff also acknowledge that there are current challenges related to stormwater management within this area as well as drainage. The applicant is also aware of these existing conditions and would need to manage and address this through site plan approval to support the development of the site. Staff will also need to consider buffering and visual screening in more detail, again, through site plan control. And this is in adherence with municipal design standards, and the applicant is also aware of these concerns that have been raised. So in review of the zoning bylaw amendment, staff recommends a few changes to scope the development potential, and these have been reviewed by the proponent and they're generally satisfied with them. So specifically, we do recommend limiting the permitted uses to dry industrial uses and general industrial uses that are directly related to agricultural products, and include a special provision that it is required to be a dry industrial use. We also made a minor amendment to the request to include office and open storage as accessory uses. And staff have reviewed that requirement to reduce, reviewed the request to reduce the parking requirements from approximately 114 spaces, I believe, to 50 parking spaces. And this is really based on the existing operations on Egremont Drive. The applicant is satisfied that this is enough space to contain parking. And also, if they do need to expand in the future, there is sufficient space on site to do that. The applicant is also aware that no on-street parking would be permitted on Gold Creek Drive or Egremont Drive. So in light of this, staff do recommend approval of the site-specific farm industrial zone for the development of an agriculture-related industrial use as it is consistent with the PPS and in conformity with the county official plan. But this opinion was provided without the benefit of a public meeting, and council should consider any new information when considering this application. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. I will now call on members of the public who have registered to. Oh, sorry, I've skipped one. Yes, we have more presentations. The agent or applicant, we have, yes. If you'd like to come on up, and then when you push the button and it turns green, then you can.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Nick Dijak. I'm the senior planner and the agent of this file from Maastricht Ballerine Moniz. And thank you, Ms. Cabral, for that very thorough application. It pretty much covered everything that I wanted to touch base on with you. I did want to just comment on some of the concerns that we've heard from the public and from staff, and just want to elaborate a bit on the development that is being proposed. So the facility, the parking, and outdoor storage is included in the area to be rezoned, but there's also a large area just between the facility and the hamlet of Lobo boundary itself. That area would be for the stormwater purposes, for the septic, for water well. So all of those services have to be contained on site as it is a dry industrial use. So that area serves for servicing. It also serves as a required buffer separation space from the approximately 200 meters between residential to the east and the proposed facility. So a lot of those parameters have been considered in terms of the PPS policies and in the number of several guidelines from minimum distance separation, impacts to agricultural use, as well as D6 guidelines for land use compatibility. So all of those concerns have been investigated and considered with the site plan layout. So moving forward to site plan approval, a lot of the engineering would have to be still completed, including geotechnical, hydrogeological, traffic studies. As mentioned, we are aware of these issues. We are anticipating that all this work would have to be completed still, as well as the upgrade to Gold Creek Drive to the Gromont intersection. So all of that work would need to be delved into through the site plan control process. There's also a Section 28 permit that we would also be required to achieve through Conservation Authority. So a lot more consultation, a lot more engineering would be required to make sure that these issues are addressed properly and satisfied. So I also want to mention that myself, I'm available for questions, but also I'm here with the owners from Dairy Lane Systems. So John and Mike Van Senior are also here for questions. Thanks.
Oh, thank you for that presentation. We go through the whole thing and then council's at the end. So the next item on the agenda is to call on members of the public who have registered to provide comments in person. And Mr. Rose, when you're ready, same process. Be the far left button. The far left button that you push. Yeah, on the lot. It didn't go red. It should be the same, right? It's
one in the middle.
okay, and there it is, green. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Okay, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding this zoning bylaw amendment. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Don Rose. I'm one of the property owners near the proposed site. And I'm speaking on behalf of a number of my neighbors with their general agreement and support. Our concerns include a number of issues related to the proposed amendment project, and I'll try and condense these into a few broad categories. Number one, the loss of prime farmland. Provincial policy statement 2024, Middlesex County Strategic Plan and Middlesex Centre Official Plan all prioritize the preservation of prime farmland. However, in each jurisdiction, they also allow exceptions. The applicant in this case is using the agriculture-related business criteria as a reason to change the zoning on this site. And I find it ironic that the purpose of developing A3 in the first place was that designation was to preserve farmland ad infinitum. Middlesex Centre is largely a rural municipality adjacent to the City of London, and it has its own satellite communities, all of which are gobbling up precious farmland. If you are truly passionate about preserving farmland, this is an opportunity to take a stand and refuse this application. If this proposed project were allowed to proceed, there are potential implications to agriculture, such as the remaining farmland will be fragmented. And for those of you who are in the farming business, you know that's an awkward and inefficient way to farm. Secondly, MDS could, that's minimum distance separation, could inhibit the placement of livestock facilities on nearby properties. Thirdly, the safe movement of farm equipment on roadways with the increased traffic we're getting The finally, the possible reduction in the sale and value of our nearby properties. With respect to the alternative sites, since this proposed development is a manufacturing enterprise, it should be referred to the approved industrial locations having all the appropriate services rather than creating the uncertain modified services at 10650 Gold Creek Drive. If there's not enough serviced area available, then these centralized individual or industrialized areas need to be expanded. This might help. Let me move on to over our other issues with the proposed services and infrastructure associated with this proposed site. I've read the planning justification report as well as the servicing feasibility study, and although these two documents might support and satisfy the planning department, they leave several unanswered scenarios. For example, water servicing, road and traffic management, and future development. With respect to water servicing, stormwater management has always been a problem in Lobo Hamlet. Due to the nature of the heavy clay soil and watershed topography, there's significant ponding and surface water runoff with even moderate rainfalls. And the only escape route for this precipitation is the McKellar Drain trunk number 5. This drain is unable to handle even moderate rainfalls, and the result is flooding. There are 3 tributary drains from the subject property feeding onto the underground McKellar tile drain. These undersized tile drains are at least 75 years old and in poor condition. With respect to the, in the servicing feasibility study, stormwater management, the plan is to have a stormwater retention pond which holds excessive water from the 125,000 square foot building, the parking and storage areas. And just to give you a kind of visual, that 125,000 square foot building is bigger than the wellness center here in Komoka. The existing outlets are to remain the same. And potentially the same overflow and flooding will occur. And we are not satisfied with that. Concerning the quality factor of the retained pond water, there are possible issues, likely issues, such as the arrival of invasive species like Phragmites, algae, mosquitoes, which might carry West Nile virus, as well as pollutants, sedimentation, and infilling. Domestic water is to be provided from a drilled well. We have no knowledge whether this could affect the aquifer that feed the surrounding wells. Everybody in the hamlet of Lobo are on drilled wells. A more extensive hydrological study is required. Under the another concern is road and traffic management. Gold Creek Drive is a 2-lane gravel road which would require reconstruction, including reinforcing, widening, and paving. The intersection of Gold Creek and Egremont currently has heavy traffic flow. I invite you to take a drive our way at rush hour and or at 3 in the afternoon, and you will understand what I'm saying. The turn from the west to southwest is awkward. It's a 45-degree angled turn. So this would need require widening and perhaps turn lanes. This is a safety issue, and a traffic impact study is required. With respect to future development, if this site is zoned M3-7 specific site specific, does this allow unlimited expansion of dairy lane facilities? And would non-agricultural businesses be permitted to establish on this site? Madam Chair, I've only briefly touched on some of our concerns. We feel that this would set a precedence. The zoning precedent-setting zoning change and requires council's deepest consideration and action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose, and I appreciate your watching the clock as well. Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda would be members who have registered virtually, and there are none of those who are, and no one has popped in the last few minutes. So then the next question goes to anyone in the audience who's attending tonight. If there's someone who wishes to comment or speak, then they should come on up, and your hand was first, so I'm picking on you. And it's already green, so you can go ahead when you're ready. 5 minutes. If you would give your name and your address for the clerk to record,
Sure.
that would be the first thing. Thank you.
My name is Arnold Reichel. I'm at 23195 Nairn Road. Our property abuts up to the property that's being discussed tonight. And my main problem right now is that the drains, which Mr. Rose just talked about, for my farm, go through the middle of that field. And if there's any construction on that field, those drains will not stand it because they were put in there in 1952. They're very old. I have reconstructed McKellar Drain on my own property at my own expense because I'm the last person on the drain line, and according to our payment system, which is very unfair for drains, I had nobody to help me drain my property, which is now being drained through that field. And if any of those tiles are broken, my fields are useless. So I would like to stress to the township that we need a lot of new infrastructure for drains in that area, especially in that field and my own fields. Because anything happening in that main drain going across there of McKellar's is going to block all the field drains off of my fields, which is not going to be very nice. I've wanted to drain some of my fields to the front of my property, but I've been told by the county I can't use their ditch, which I pay for through my taxes, but still I can't drain into their ditch, which also is very unfair. And they are a very unfair system, the county, to deal with. And I'd like to just say that I think that this council is very unfair to the city of Lobo. You collect our taxes, but you give us nothing back. In 19 years, the only work you've done in Lobo that I can recall is you've paved Lobo Lane a couple years ago or last year. That's all the infrastructure you've done in Lobo, and the thousands of dollars that the residents of Lobo pay you every year in taxes. We get nothing back for it. We don't have a street light. We don't have a sidewalk. We don't have a playground. We don't even have a park. You've completely abandoned Lobo, and now you want to put in a big piece of property, which is not even in this village of Lobo. And I don't believe it will be incorporated into the Village of Lobo, even if they do receive an okay on that property, which shouldn't be. You've never planned anything for Lobo, and you should not be allowed to put anything like this new in Lobo and take our farmland away. I think I've said enough. I've just been given some update on information, which unfortunately I'm getting a little over the hill and I can't read a lot without glasses help. But I do believe that this lady up here spoke of some of these things that are on this sheet. The lighting that we're now putting up with in the Village of Lobo, which is completely lighting up the whole territory. It's disturbing our animals and wildlife with all the lights we have nowadays. And our property itself will be sandwiched between two commercial installations, providing the Dairy Lane stays where it is. If they move the whole thing to their new location, then we'll be wondering what's going to take place in their old system. And another thing for the Village of Lobo, you've supplied no houses. Not one house in 20 years has been built in the Village of Lobo.
Your 5 minutes are up. If you'd just like to wind that up now.
Okay.
Hello, Council.
Good evening.
I'm Andrew Howe, and I live at 117 Lobo Lane, which connects dead ends at Gold Creek, just east or east of the intersection. Touching on it, on a few things that have already been mentioned, the traffic infrastructure, there's been several years since any upgrades have been made, although the traffic has gotten much higher. Beyond that intersection, Gold Creek is just a road and drops off the ditches. Although this facility is outside the hamlet somewhat of Lobo, it backs on, connects to the hamlet, and traffic would use this area to reach the facility. It is a residential area. The inside block of Lobo is all residential houses. Most people have children. There's no shoulder to the road. If you're on Gold Creek, the traffic has to stop for you to walk up the road so they get past. In a residential neighborhood, it doesn't sound adequate or safe. So you're left with nowhere to go outside. In a little quick research of DLS systems, there seem to be nationwide in Canada and serve Canada. And they seem to be a thriving business. They're growing. They will, if this is approved, will obtain 50% or more of the commercial space in Lobo Village or Hamlet. Would be makes sense to maybe sponsor a green space with the township for the village, for the residents, since they share that space, or they're quickly buying it up. On top of, on this application, they've also purchased residential homes surrounding their current location. If it keeps up, there won't be much left. So a give back to the community would be well appreciated and a good gesture. On top of that, this is although they serve an agricultural industry, and they're going to take out, and they're using that to obtain the agricultural land, they don't really serve people in our neighborhood. Overall, in our 4 or 5 counties, there are only 200 dairy farms registered with the government. So this facility, where they say it needs to be, really makes no sense. It's not serving our community. It's not really serving anybody in our area, although they'd like us to believe they are. Could be in an industrial park just about anywhere else. And in their words, they service, maintain, and build livestock, machinery, farms, and whatnot all over the several areas. And if they're based in Lobo Village or close to, is there disease transfer systems in place for this type of work? I don't know. I would have to have them tell me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Going once, twice? Okay. I don't see any hands, so we will now move to our council members for questions. So who wants to kick it off? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I figured tonight I was either speaking first or last. So here she goes. I read all the reports. I read all the letters. I reread the provincial policy statement. I reread our official plan. I give up with the county because by then I had enough reading. And the bottom line is this is allowable. And if we say no, it can go to a land tribunal and we'll lose. So that's, for the people in the audience, that's the bad news. But there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. The drainage issue in Lobo, it's terrible. But the residents have to write a petition to fix the drainage. If you do that, we have to look after it. So and some of these drains too, if it's from 1950, we know how much drainage that's got. The coefficient's not very good anymore. And as Arnold said too, he's got land that's going to drain through there. So if there is construction, that has to be fixed. You can't mess with tile drainage because I know what old tiles are like. As soon as you touch them, they're going to collapse. As far as some green space, this is one of those situations where I think if we all sat down with the people that want to build and the people that want change, maybe we can come up with a solution that nobody's going to be happy, but somebody told me once, if nobody's happy, it's a good deal. So I'm sorry I know you're expecting more out of me, but this is my honest judgment of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, Councillor Cates, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to kind of tag on with what Hugh said as well, Councillor Art said. I too have read everything in great detail. And I think that the planning report was done very, very well. And I think that it addressed a lot of your concerns. And, you know, just some notes that I have here. Just a reminder that this is the very early stages. So there still will be lots of studies that are done, that you've mentioned some studies, and there's still a lot of homework that has to be done. You know, and in the design steps to get to the site plan. And I agree that, as Councillor Art said, this is farm industrial that's related to agriculture. And I don't really feel that it's our job to analyze their business of where exactly they're selling it to. That's a business case for them to do. As far as the concerns about the drainage, I was going to say the same thing. You need to apply for, the drainage situation. And if you are talking about a drain from 1952 and you have concerns with the drain, there are processes for that as well. It's the same when you talk about the roads, and we just recently had a transportation study, and I'm not sure if there was a public open house last week at the wellness center for people to come and talk about future plans and what's happening with the transportation. So I'm not sure if you had submitted any of your input for that as well. So there are methods to follow with some of your concerns that maybe are a little bit unrelated to this application. There are other processes that you can follow to get things looked after. I think that's all that I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cates. And go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of your concerns can be addressed at the site plan agreement. When we get into that, that gets into the more detailed description of what goes on that site as far as drainage, stormwater pond, all that kind of stuff, the road, the traffic and all that happens at the site plan agreement. So that's a ways off, and that will deal with a lot of the concerns that you have. Now, Dairy Lane does support a lot of dairy farms in the area. I'm going to disagree with the gentleman that said there's none in the area, because there are a lot of dairy farms in the area that deal with dairy lanes. So I know there are a lot of farms in the area, some big ones too. So, but the main thing I wanted to get across was that the site plan agreement, that's where a lot of your concerns can be addressed and will be addressed. And until those are all satisfied with the township, nothing's going to happen until they meet all those site plan agreements.
I see Councillor Burrs.
Yes, okay. So I think it's already been covered by Councillor Cates, Deputy Mayor Brennan, and Councillor Arts. Normally, we don't say to people during these applications that we know we're going to lose on appeal. We have enough experience to know that. So Councillor Arts' point there is well taken. The only thing I will comment on is I've toured Dairy Lane. I've seen the business. It's a good business. It's successful. We in the municipality are trying to bring in business. We can't survive the way we are with residential and agriculture. We could, but taxes are going to go through the roof. And so this is an opportunity to do that. And I know it's not popular, but there's 50 jobs being created and it's being hooked. And I understand why they're doing it where they are. Their primary business is located right next door. And it's already been said that a lot of your concerns can be covered off in the site plan agreement. If you want something to do with the drain, then you have to petition through the Drainage Act, whether you think it's fair or not. That's a whole nother point. So I'm looking at this as it's being hooked to an existing successful business. They want to expand. They have to do a lot of site plan prep to bring it up to a level where we'll finalize it. But speaking at a high level, I like the fact that they're bringing new jobs and attached to a successful business, which we need to have. And where do you put these things? If we sit in any meeting, nobody wants anything around them, so you're not going to do anything, but we have to move, in my opinion. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't see any other comments or hands. So No one else has jumped in anywhere. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we can go ahead and consider the motions that, oops, I have to get that up here. Oh, it's up there. 13. Okay, so the recommendation that we have to pass or deny at this point is that report PLA 06/2026 regarding the application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2/2026 be received. And further, the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2/2026 as amended filed by SBM on behalf of 2797123 Ontario Incorporated to rezone the subject land from agricultural, no residences A3 zone to the farm industrial exception 7, M3-7 zone for the land legally described as concession for part lots 10 to 12 and RP 33R21685 parts 4 and 10 in the former township of Lobo and known as 10651 Gold Creek Drive, municipality of Middlesex Center, be approved. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Arts, call the vote, all in favor? And it's none opposed. And that is carried. Okay, the next item up is the zoning bylaw amendment for 16033 Medway Road. And again, our planner, Marion Cabral, is going to present the report. Marion, if you want to just maybe wait just a second till the people who want to leave can get out, then. Okay. Yeah. So this is neither the time nor the place. The opportunity to speak was during the meeting. We are moving on to another. Do you want to speak to that?
Are we not in a meeting?
We are in a meeting and we have an item before us.
Here, discuss something that pertains to our life. It may not pertain to yours. Because you probably don't live in Lowell. But we do.
Since 1961. Okay, so if you would please. That's irrelevant. If you would just take a break. Thank you, Mr. Rose.
And I want Mr. Hughes to say to me, well, this is what you have to do, fine. But why should the local residents have to go and get signatures to have a drainage problem fixed?
Okay, sir,
Yeah.
there was an opportunity for you to speak and you chose not to. Would you?
Every time I come.
Well, maybe you could just line up and speak when there's an opportunity. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to cut him off, but 3 times recorded. Okay. Sorry, Marion, about that. If you want to go ahead and present the report on the next item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you again to the rest of council. So the purpose of this staff report is to.
The other meeting is happening outside, so we'll just take a minute.
So.
Okay, I think you can hear you now. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, to the rest of council. So the purpose of the staff report is to provide a recommendation on applications at BA 3/2026. And this is for the lands at 16033 Medway Road. The property is located on the south side of Medway Road and east of Clark Road. And the purpose of this application is to rezone approximately 1 hectare of land from agriculture to a new site-specific agriculture exception zone. And this is specifically to permit a landscape contractor's yard, which includes the use of the land or portion thereof for the purposes of storing equipment, vehicles, or landscape materials, provided the land area associated with this use is limited to 1 hectare of land. Additionally, no buildings or structures would be permitted in association with the landscape contractor's yard. And the effect of this application would legally permit a contractor's yard within the scope of an on-farm diversified use. This type of business is to ensure that it is secondary to a farming operation and that the land can be reverted back to farmland in the future. And for council's knowledge, this application is a result of enforcement of the zoning bylaw where the agricultural or the A1 zone does not permit non-agricultural uses such as a contractor's yard as of right. The existing business currently operates from the area west of the home and has access to Medway Road. The business uses the site for open storage of gravel, stone, soils, mulch, and similar materials, as well as vehicles and machinery associated with the business. There are existing drive sheds and outbuildings on this property. However, these are associated with the farm itself or for the dwelling, and no new buildings or structures are proposed. This site is not open to the public, and the owner does reside on the property in the dwelling that's adjacent to the use. So overall, this farm is split zoned between agriculture and extractive industrial. However, it is currently being farmed. Surrounding land uses are agriculturally related, and there is some aggregate extraction within proximity just to the south of the land. So this application was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff. Leading to this public meeting, I have not received any comments from members of the public or area residents. The chief building official reviewed this application and has no objections to this rezoning, and it identifies that the applicant will need to apply for site plan approval. Public Works and Engineering also reviewed this application, and there were no concerns related to servicing of the site since there are no buildings or structures. However, again, the applicant would need to apply for site plan approval. The county engineer had commented on this application as a result of this location on Medway Road and identified that the entrance would need to be upgraded to support the use of this property. And finally, UTRCA had no objections to this rezoning since it is recognizing an existing use and not proposing any new development. However, if there is development proposed outside or on the regulated area, then they would require approval. So planning staff reviewed the application against all relevant agricultural policies and guidelines that speak to on-farm diversified uses. The provincial policy statement and provincial guidelines permit on-farm diversified uses where they are secondary to a primary agricultural use that can either be complementary or coexist on an agricultural property without any conflict. On-farm diversified uses are intended to diversify or supplement farm income, as well as accommodate smaller related businesses in a prime agricultural area. So examples of this can include like a tea room on a lavender farm, home industries, the sale of produce and goods from the property or surrounding areas, any on-farm accommodations, or playgrounds and mazes at a pick your own establishment. And of course, it can include a use like the one that's proposed in this application. But truly it is intended to be considered for small scale, complementary, and minimal in terms of intensity. As well, the provincial guidelines establish criteria to use when evaluating such proposals, and that is contained within my staff report. With regard to a contractor's yard specifically, these are generally uses that we direct to urban settlement areas, and we continue to do this to protect agricultural land from being removed from production and also limit the degradation of soil. However, they can be considered in this context as an on-farm diversified use subject to meeting this criteria. And in our evaluation, we determined that the use can be permitted due to the limited scale of the business, the lack of buildings and infrastructure, and that is not open to members of the public. And we believe that the impacts have been limited to some matters related to screening, buffers, and runoff, as well as hardscaping, which again can be addressed through site plan control. So as such, staff recommend approval of the site-specific zone subject to amendments. So this would include to permit the contractor's yard as an on-farm diversified use within a 1 hectare area, and special provisions to include open storage as the principal use of the zoned area. And that section 423 subsection E apply to this the zoned area, which will require open storage to be maintained and stable to prevent dust and loose particles in order to prevent negative impacts on the surrounding agriculture. So again, we are supportive of this application, and we are of the opinion that the application is consistent with a provincial policy statement and in conformity with the local official plans. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that report, Marion. Is there any agent or person wanting to? Yeah, she said they online. Online? Oh, okay. So the applicant is online and we'll hear from them momentarily.
Hello?
That's Scott.
Yep, that's me.
Okay, we're waiting to hear your comments or any input you'd like to make at this point in time.
Well, yeah, council, thanks for having me. I just, yeah, I don't really have too many comments. I was here in case there was, yeah, I mean, no one has contested it, or how does that all work?
Oh, everything's good right now. I don't think you're
Uh,
going to have any issues here. So
Okay,
you can stay on. And if any council member, when we get to them, has a question for you, then we'll look for you to provide some input, okay?
yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I'm going to ask now, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this? Nobody? Okay. And no one else is virtually registered. So I'm going to then ask any members of the public who've not registered? No? Okay, I just don't want to miss one. Council, are there questions on this application? I see shaking heads. I have a question. It's not exactly a planning question, but I don't know if you can answer. So 1 hectare is the area that the person can use. Is this property taxed as a residential property then, or does it revert to the agricultural, the regular farming tax for the business portion of this?
So through the mayor, I would actually maybe ask, I wonder if Tiffany, if you would be able to speak to that. I think currently it is still, but there likely would be a reassessment for the portion that is being used for commercial purposes, but she might have more to add there.
Thank you.
So through Mayor DeVete, so yes, if there is an addition, so anything at this time, so municipal like MPAC would be doing an updated assessment for anything to do with a growth related item. And this would fall under that category and would be an additional assessment at that time. The timing of that, I wouldn't know offhand, but it would result in increased taxes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, any final questions from council? No? Okay, in that case, we do have a recommendation before us, and that is that report PLA 07-2026 regarding the application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 3-2026 be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application as amended filed by Murray McCutcher Professional Corporation, corporation on behalf of CCEX Incorporated to rezone the subject land from the agricultural A1 zone to agricultural exception number 55, zone for the land legally described as concession 6 north, part lots 2 and 3 in the former township of London and known as 16033 Medway Road, Municipality of Middlesex Centre, be approved. And a mover, please, Councillor Cates and Councillor Burrs. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And no one is opposed. Thank you. Okay. Alrighty. Now we can go to the motion to rise from public meetings. And the motion is that the public meetings adjourn at 6:29 PM and council resume its regular meeting. If I give a mover, please, and a seconder, Councillor Shipley and Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we have a number of items on the consent agenda. These are typically received in one motion. But before we take that vote, is there anybody who wishes to have one item to speak to or removed? Go ahead, Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank, through you to Tiffany, I just want to thank you for taking a look at the amended treasurer's statement, the cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve Fund. I appreciate you going back and taking a look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Seeing no hands, we do have a motion then before us that the consent items number 9.1 through 9.3 listed on the February 25, 2026 agenda be adopted as recommended. And I have Councillor Burrs and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we don't have any staff reports to consider this evening. There are no notices of motion. We have correspondence items. Before I call the vote on that, just okay, I see a hand. Go ahead, Councillor Cates.
Thank you. I would like to pull item 12.5, the AOR's request for support a motion. And I would like to make a motion to support the AOR's resolution and direct staff to circulate to the agencies noted in the resolution. Everyone works so hard to keep us safe, and weather events, so many weather events, and they deserve to return home safely.
Thank you. Would you like to read that motion? Get it? I'll have the clerk read the motion. Oh, sorry.
Right. Thank you, Chair. So the motion put forward by Councillor Cates is that the request of support of motion, my apologies, that the motion regarding protection for municipal public works workers and contractors circulated by the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors be supported, and that staff be directed to circulate the resolution to the agencies noted within.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cates has moved that, and do a seconder. Councillor Arts, thank you. I'll call a vote. All in favor of that? That's everybody. Thank you very much, everyone. Is there anything else in that list of correspondence? Okay, so I guess revised motion will be that we correspondence 12.1 through 12.5, 4, pardon me, be received as information. Motion moved by Councillor Shipley, thank you, and Deputy Mayor Brennan, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay. Does any member of council have any other business that they would like to bring forward at this time? I don't see any hands, so we have a motion before us that bylaws 2026 number 13 through number 15 be adopted as printed. That's moved by Councillor Cates and Councillor Coles. Thank you. All in favor of that? And that is carried. And finally, the last motion for this evening is that the council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns at 6:32 PM on February 25, 2026. Councillor Cates, Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? We stand adjourned. We're going.